Perfect. Right. So, welcome along to this webinar on how to make a training plan. So, this is particularly good for sense detection rather than like man trailing. So, for sense detection, it's good to have a plan of where you want to go with your dog. So, for a lot of people who don't know how to make a plan, this webinar will give you some ideas or some thoughts on what I do when I'm making a plan for my dogs. And for dogs that I worked previously with behaviorally, I'd always make a plan similar to this, or long-term goals or short-term goals, etc., etc. But this webinar will be specifically on sense detection. So, first thing before we start any plan is we need to talk about the goal. You need to know your goal before you start to write a dog training plan. So for sense detection, so for instance, I'll go through what I'm going to use on my next dog, next puppy, which I'm picking up shortly. On Monday, I'll be picking her up. Our goal is for a 5-second freeze indication within 5 centimeters of the Kong. So I've got my goal very specific. I know exactly what I want from that. I've written it down. I've written my training plan accordingly for that. So the first thing you need to think about is what is your goal, before you can do anything else. Now we're going to move on to the whys, the how, the whys, the how, and the what, the dog training plan next. So why? So the first thing people often ask me is, why do I need to write a training plan? Simply, it helps you. If you have it written down, it is already more achievable. Writing things down for some people can be seen as on paper. For me, I use digital writing, so I write it down on my tablet or my laptop or even my phone. If it's written down somewhere, it's going to make it more achievable to start with because you've already written it down. You've made it clear what your goal is. Also, the reason I particularly like to have a training plan is it makes you a better trainer for your dog. So what I mean by that is you've got a clear plan, you know what you're about to do, you know why you're going to be doing the next training session, rather than just going, oh, let's just do this, let's just do that. You know what you should be working on rather than just winging it. It allows you to track your progress. Having a good plan means you can track your progress and make adjustments as needed. So making adjustments could look like skipping a step, staying at a step for a bit longer, or changing things completely. Unless you're tracking that progress, you don't know how your progress is coming along. And again, for me, I just use a simple sheet, which I've got a wee demo, a wee example one, sorry, towards the end of this webinar on something that I would use. It's not my specific one. And I don't think it's good to look at specific people's training plans. I think you need to come up with your own one. So when I used to work behaviorally with clients, I used to come up with them as a rough guide and say to people, hey, this is what I would do. This is what I want you to base yours on and make edits as a team. Also, why do you want a training plan? Understanding the tools needed. So it can be, once you know your plan, you know what tools are needed. So again, it could be something simpler as you're going to use a clicker, you're going to use a toy as the reward. Simple things like, oh, I need a tripod to record myself. I need to know where the boundaries are on my filming frame so you can put cones out. If you know what your goal, what your plan is, and for each session, you know what you need for that. So if your first one is, I want to record myself training, so I can watch back, etc., you can pick, you know what tools you need, basically. And it makes it far easier knowing what you need rather than going, oh, I need this, or you started a session and go, oh, I could have done with this. Whereas if you pre-plan and go, right, I know what I need, and this is why I need it, it makes you more likely to do it. So moving on from the whys, what? What are the steps in your plan? So what do they look like? Are they small enough that they're achievable? Are they big enough? Knowing your steps allows you to stick to that plan as well. So what happens a lot of the time with dog training is people see success really early on. So they go step 1, 2, 3, 10, and they miss out the whole bridge of foundation there. And it makes them worse because the dog's pushed on so quickly. And you see a lot of dogs failing because you've skipped steps 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It could even be skipping 2 steps. But again, if you know your steps in the plan, you can't. You're more likely to stick to them. Again, what training adjustments, what you might need to make. So these could be simple things like moving back a step. When you're in a training session, you go, actually, we need to move back a step, staying where you are for an extra session or two, or skipping a step. Now, it's different from sticking to your steps to making adjustments. So just said, oh, we've gone 1, 2, 3, skipped 10. That's unlikely. But it could be we go 1, 2, 3, miss 4, and do 5. Or 1, 2, 3, back to 2, back to 3, back to 2, back to 3, 3, 3, 4 type thing. And that's more realistic training plan. Now, obviously, we always want to be progressing on a training plan, but there's times where we have to make the adjustments and move back and forward. Skipping a step, if your dog's ready for it and you're ready for it, absolutely. But you've made that adjustment in your plan. So the big thing, how do we do these? So step 1, simple. What is your goal? Writing it down. That is your end goal. To get there, where are you now? So step 2 is working out where you are at this stage. So a lot of people skip this step and you don't think about it, but where are you and your dog at for sense detection? So say you're looking for that passive freeze indication. Have you started training it? Okay, you have started training it. Where are you at? Make a training plan and plan from there helps. Step 3, writing your steps towards your goal. Now, when I say this, what I mean by that is, are there achievable goals? Are they achievable steps? You really want these steps to be micro slices of training. So, for instance, if I've got a freeze indication in mind, and I've done the foundation work, my dog understands that target order, and I'm looking to add duration. Rather than suddenly going in from nothing to 3 seconds, I'm going to micromanage that down to fractions of seconds. It doesn't actually need to be fraction of seconds, but it can just be slices of seconds, if that makes sense. So I'm literally going, right, a slight delay, that'll do. A little bit longer, a bit longer, a bit longer. You can write them down. So in my training plan example I've got later on, I do slice it down into seconds. So it's a half second, 1.5 seconds, and so on. But that training goal can be that steps can be as baby steps as needed. And I often say to people, if something's going wrong, it's more than likely you're skipping points that your dog needs, and that's down to missing steps. So you're not baby stepping it enough for your dog. Now, a lot of people don't like the term baby step. I love baby step term. People understand exactly what I mean by that. Small baby steps, not giant leaps. Step 4, simple, stick to your training plan. The amount of people which I know start training, I've got a beautiful training plan, and 2 sessions in, they go AWOL. They just don't stick to it. The whole idea of you spending the time writing your training plan is that you're more likely to be doing, you're more likely to follow it through. You spent time investing on writing this training plan. So you want it to be valuable to you so you can use it. You also want it accessible. So that's why I use my phone. So I use my tablet, my phone, so I've always got access to it. Step 5, simple, keeping a record of the training progress. So whether that's good progress, cool, we moved up from step 2 to 3 today as planned, or we've gone, you know what, actually we had to stay at step 2 today. That's fine. That's still keeping a record. Again, a lot of people go into dog training and specifically scent detection, and they don't keep a record of things. They don't know where they're at. And if you really want a really good indication, you do need to keep a record of it. You do need to know what's working, what's not working. Step six even, make adjustments as required. So again, talking about step 5, we're recording things, going, okay, my dog is struggling. We're not getting that 3 reps in a row, which I'll talk about in a minute. Then there's something missing here, so I need to make an adjustment. Or the flip side, it's too easy for my dog. They're getting frustrated that it's too easy. Okay, cool, we can make adjustments and make it a wee bit more difficult. Making adjustments should always follow on from a record path, so you should be able to see what's happening rather than just going, oh, I think this is what we're doing. Then ultimately, you stick to I've only put 6 steps, but there could be 20 steps in your plan. These are the main steps I look at when I'm making a training plan. Finally, you're going to reach your goal. Okay, if you stick to these 6 premises of steps, you will reach your goal. So following your plan means you'll achieve your goal. Simple as that. If you write your plan correctly, you will achieve your goal, provided you stick to your plan. The plan's not going to lie, the plan's not going to change, but you will make mistakes, you will need to make adjustments, things will happen that you need to record, and it's just good to do so. When we're goal setting, it's really important to think about what our goal is. I said this at the start. Ultimately, it needs to be smart. So if you the term I use when I look at my goal is SMART, which is, yeah. So it needs to be, my goal has to be specific, so I know exactly what I want. And for me, like I said, I want 5-second freeze indication within 5 centimeters of the Kong or the target odor of the new puppy. That's what I've set as criteria. So my training plan is building on that. It's measurable, yep, because I can measure distance, I can measure time. It's attainable, absolutely, because I know I can do it. It's relevant, of course it's relevant because it's what I need, and it's timely. So I'm going to put a time limit on it to make sure I do it. But yeah, this is a cool wee thing. You probably heard it mentioned lots of times if you've ever done training plans before. But yeah, SMART is the way to think about things. I'm not harp on about it too much because most people are sick of hearing about SMART. But yeah, it's one of the best ways to make a goal. It doesn't have to just be dog training. It could be fitness related. It could be everything. All you need to know is that if you meet the SMART criteria. So, example of a training plan. So this is for a brand new dog who is never done any scent detection before. And what I'm looking for this dog is to build up to a 3-second indication. Okay. So on this plan, I've not actually got the goal written down, but that's the goal. So this is what it could look like. So you can see I've got step 1, dog touches Kong. Okay, sub-step is Kong's in the hand, Kong's on the floor, and movement added is handler movement. Step 2, I'm looking at duration. Sub-step of that is half a second, 1 second, 1.5 seconds. And then, like I said, that would just carry on. Next column is successes. So I'm going to put in sub-step 1, success, a tick. I like ticks for successes, and I quite often date it as well. I will then put in how many resets I had to do. So resets is when I've either had to step in, move the Kong, or help the dog. My 3 in a row. So did I get 3 Kong touches in a row with the dog? If I did, I can move on to the next step. Again, I can put 3 ticks in to say I've got 3 in a row of the dog touching the Kong in my hand. Right, I can move on to step number 2. And a box, as always, for comments. Now, if I look back at this, I can have lots of ticks, lots of comments, and I can make adjustments as required as I progress. But literally, that's how you can have a dog training plan look. It doesn't have to be complicated. It should be that you can hand this to anyone and they should be able to train your dog. That is what you're looking for a good dog training plan. So if you didn't have any previous knowledge of scent detection, I should be able to hand you this and you should be able to do it. And I think you would. But don't get hung up on little nitty gritty details. Keep it simple. Simple is the best. So that's the type of things I use. For example, mine's is a lot longer than that. It's more pages, and that's why I didn't want to share it. But that's the premise of an example of a dog training plan for specifically an indication on Kong, passive indication on Kong. So that brings me to the end of what I wanted to go through. It was just to give you an idea of what you want to think about when you're making a plan, how to make a plan, why you would make a plan, then show you a rough example of one which looks like what one might look like. So as always, if you've got any questions and you're watching this back, please do just drop me an email, pop a comment down on if you're watching this in the Facebook group. Otherwise, what I'll go do, the people who are live, I'm going to click the button to say that they can unmute themselves and we will have a chat to see if anyone's got any questions. Cool. Any questions, guys?
No, I'm fine. Thanks, Kevin. That was great.
Good.
I've got one, Kevin.
Good.
Just on formulating your steps, looking at the ones that you had there, that makes absolute sense. It's just, how do you go about setting the next steps, for example, and trying to transfer a duration on a Kong that's, on the floor to getting duration in a sort of real scenario?
Yeah, so what I would do, I'll go back to this. So all I would do there is replace the step one with searching for Kong, for instance, and then step two would be the exact same again. And I would start applying the same micromanagement to the search. So I'm only looking for fractions of a second potentially for an indication. I'm going to build it up over many steps.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So rather than going, right, my dog can offer me 3 seconds or 1.5 seconds, according to this example, on the ground. To apply that to an actual search, I'm going to go back up here to sub-step 1.
Okay.
And then I'd start building up again. I am in the middle of writing I'll call it a book. It's an ebook on how to do it a bit better than explaining it this way. I should have it finished by the end of this year. And it talks about the way I teach is like a diamond shape, so it's called the diamond method. How we split the indication away from the search work, and then when they come back together, it does have a lot more detail on how to do all this.
Right.
But yeah, that's the premise of it, is if you can slice it down again so the dog understands, oh, what I do on the small Kong on the floor also applies to this, is what we want. I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions about anything?
Nope, I'm fine, thanks.
Good. Cool.
Yeah, that was good.
Grand,
yeah, we don't have a plan. We'll go and get a plan.
Yeah, they don't, and this is the thing. They don't have to be complicated. This is why I actually did this webinar in the end. Is a lot of people, I think the pages and pages long. They can be literally an A4 sheet.
Yeah,
you're seeing that one there. Most dogs, I think, the plan I had, for example, that's achievable for most dogs, and for most people to follow that, that's quite easy. Yeah. We can break that down even more. Of course we can. We can start then moving Kong in hand at waist height and then sub-stepping it down. It could take 4 steps to get the Kong to the ground.
Mhm.
And then Kong's on the ground, right? How close are we? So that's where that movement's added one. And same for the duration. We're looking for the 0.5 seconds. It could just be looking for any duration to start with,
Mhm.
and then move it on each small step. So everything we talk about in dog training, we can micro slice it, if you think about it, into tiny baby steps. And that's what makes good dog training, basically. It's thinking, how can I make this smaller and easier for people and dogs to understand? So yeah, if there's no more questions, like I say, if you think of anything else afterwards, pop it down below or drop me an email. But yeah, as always, thank you all for watching. And hopefully you come up with your own dog training plans. I'm always here to help with dog training plans. I can help. I can write them as well for you. Just drop me an email if you're interested in that type of thing. But I'm going to ask you for a lot of information first, because I need to make sure it's the right dog training plan for you.
Okay.
That's great. Thanks, Kevin.